Hey everybody, this is Nathan Peterson. Welcome to the wild and wacky world of Spot That Compulsion, where we are going to put our knowledge to the test and see if we can recognize these sneaky compulsions from hopefully a mile away. So for our plan, we are going to share scenarios of what a compulsion may look like, leaving the other person guessing, is this a compulsion or is it simply gaining knowledge and support? If it is a compulsion, we're also going to talk about what we're going to do instead. So will we be able to tell the difference? We'll find out right now on Spot That Compulsion. So my guest today is my buddy, psychologist Dr. Ali Mattu. He's an absolute pro and a specialist with anxiety, OCD, BFRBs, hair pulling, skin picking, depression. I mean, really all of it. I'm so happy that you're here. Is there anything you want to say about yourself? How can we know you a little bit better?
I make videos over on my channel, Dr. Ali. It's youtube.com/@DRALI. And I love this stuff. I live this stuff. I've had this stuff. So I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Nathan. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. And I think it's also going to be really informative.
Definitely. It's one of those things that if you don't already know, a compulsion is typically the behavior that somebody is doing to either gain some certainty with anxiety or OCD. Something they could potentially do in their brain. It's something they could do, like washing hands is a really common one that you'll see. So here's the first question. Okay. I come to you and I say, hey, is that front door locked? I think I locked it. I'm not sure if it actually is locked or not.
Who has not had that concern in their head? I know that's something that definitely pops up in my head every now and then is, did I lock the door? I don't really know. One thing I would want to know is what's happening with that thought in your head. Because this could be something that's an everyday common thought that floats in and out of your head. Or this could be something that really sticks there and it makes it very hard for you to deal with that uncertainty.
So it depends.
It depends.
It depends. What question do you have for me to maybe stump me a little bit?
So I've got one. I bumped into the wall and now I'm sort of checking my arms. I'm checking my feet. I'm trying to make sure everything feels right and everything is where it's supposed to be and I didn't get injured. Is that a compulsion?
Just like all the others, it depends. If somebody maybe who has, let's say, like health anxiety, or they are really worried about losing their impairment for some reason, and that's already been on their brain of, oh man, I gotta check. Sometimes that can be a compulsion. I think naturally we might want to check. Oh, well, let's see, make sure my body's okay. I bumped it on the wall, and then we just move forward. It's probably a compulsion if they bumped and then they keep checking. That's the key that I look at.
What if you aren't sure and then you go ask a partner, a family member for them to check? Dun dun dun.
For most people, probably a compulsion. Because we got to trust ourselves. And if we don't trust ourselves, someone else is sometimes going to give us an answer and still cause even more doubt and questioning. We look at evidence quite a lot in life. And if it's not very evident, like I don't have a bone sticking out of my arm, I don't have to be like, is my arm okay? I'm not so sure. I'm going to kind of know without questioning too much.
Yeah, trusting your eyes, trusting your senses, trusting the data that you have as opposed to listening to the anxiety. I like that, trusting yourself, that idea.
So how about this one? This one might be a tricky one.
Give me tricky. I want tricky.
All right, so somebody comes into your office, you know they have OCD.
Yeah.
And you've talked about these topics before. They say, man, let me tell you what happened today on my drive here. I was driving down the road, I hit a bump, and I thought, man, I don't know if that was somebody I hit or not. Like, I'm not sure. Isn't that just, like, crazy that I had that thought?
Nathan, I'm laughing because that's one of mine. I have that one too. Yeah, I've definitely heard this from people before. And it's one that you hear, if you're not familiar with OCD, if you haven't worked with OCD before, your eyebrow might go up. You're like, did you hit a person or not? But if you are familiar with OCD, and also if you know that this is someone who has been diagnosed with OCD, you've talked about OCD, then you're dealing with a different type of scenario here.
So here's the tricky part.
Ooh.
It's either some people say, well, I don't know if I actually hit somebody or not. They're asking that question. We kind of know that's probably reassurance.
Yeah.
There can be some sneaky reassurance of just saying a story. Let me just tell you a scenario. I didn't actually ask you for reassurance. I know you're going to respond and say, oh, that's ridiculous. Right. So it's kind of a sneaky way of getting reassurance. And sometimes people don't know they're even doing that.
What a great point. And that is definitely something I have experienced in my career. I think that is definitely OCD being sneaky. And that is OCD really wanting to get that certainty, really wanting to squash that doubt, which we know is only temporary and it would reactivate the whole system of OCD. And we want people to be able to kind of listen to their senses and to ride out these situations, to be able to embrace uncertainty, to live their lives the way they want to live, not the way OCD wants them to live.
That's perfect, because you don't want to write somebody off completely. Depending on what I give you, is that going to impact your OCD in a negative way or a positive way? And
yeah. Is it going to make it easier to deal with uncertainty? Is it going to make it harder to deal with uncertainty? And even the answer to that is like different for short term versus long term. Because in the short term, giving you all the reassurance will make you feel better. But we know in the long term it's gonna mess with OCD. It's gonna make things worse. Nathan, I got one for you.
Okay.
This is, it's not tricky. However, I am going to give you a few different variations of it because technology changes. And when everyone is watching this video in 5 years, maybe it'll be something very different. But some version of checking for a response. Now, this could be, I'm waiting to get physical mail, and you're checking the mailbox all the time. It could be you've sent a text message and you're checking to see for a response. It could be email. It could be something else. Is that a compulsion?
I typically would ask the person, what happens if you don't check? If you don't go check your mail, if you don't check your DMs, are you still going to be okay? Is it going to end your day? Is it going to make things really bad? Is it just something exciting that you just kind of would be bummed out about if you didn't get to check it? It's really looking at the function of that and finding out from the patient or the client, really, what is it you're looking for? If they're not sure, then I usually have them do a test. All right, let's practice not checking and see how you feel.
It's a tricky one, and I think it's one that happens for a lot of people, but I love what you say here is, all right, let's approach it like an experiment and let's see what happens if you don't check and kind of follow the data, see where that data takes you.
Yeah, because I think taking that, what I find with most compulsions is that it takes this normal thought or behavior that we want to do and sometimes just expands and explodes it into something a lot bigger.
Yeah, time. Boy, does it take a lot of time, right? When something becomes a compulsion, it takes a lot of time in doing it, but it also can take a lot of time in your head and thinking about it.
All right, well, I've got one for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to spend a lot of time problem solving. I'm going to use logic. I'm going to go back and check to see if my memory was correct. Maybe go back to the location, or whatever it is. I just really need to know if what I was experiencing was real or if it was not.
Yeah. Well, first, I have a lot of compassion for this person who might be experiencing this because it must be so hard to live your life, to be at work, to be around other people when all of these thoughts are swimming in your head. So what about wanting things to be aligned a certain way?
This is typically what we see on TV and movies. Or, OCD is all about kind of symmetry and organizing, and sometimes that's correct and sometimes it's not. I really ask the person, is this a preference for you? Do you prefer it to look this way, to be this way, have this height? Or is it something that it has to be, or else I cannot feel comfortable again?
All right, Nathan, I got one more for you. I just went on a date. I come home. You're my roommate. And I am now telling you how the date went. And I'm asking you for your feedback.
It sounds like most people would probably do that. Go home, ask, were they on the date with them or were they not?
No. So I was on a date with this mysterious stranger over here. I'm now home and I'm telling you all about it. I'm recapping the conversations. I'm telling you what I said. I'm telling you about when we were vibing, when we were not vibing, what that other person ordered, what I ordered, if that person's not attracted to me. I'm asking for your feedback on that whole date.
For me, I would say not a compulsion, all depending, of course. Not a compulsion because I think anyone would want to know, right? So getting somebody's feedback is just a guess, complete guess. Well, I appreciate all the comments, all the great information. This is something that people need to know because if they don't know, they're going to keep doing these compulsions. And these are the things that are going to keep people trapped in OCD and just life. We want to live life now, like we talked about. If someone is doing a compulsion, they're catching themselves in this cycle.
Yeah.
I mean, what can they do instead?
Yeah. There's so many great strategies to deal with compulsions, and that's something definitely, hopefully you have a good therapist to kind of help you work through that. Some of the big strategies I think about are, can you, this is coming from one of my mentors. I love this language. He used to say, can you corrupt the compulsion? Can you break the rules in some way? Can you delay it? Can you do it badly? So delay, corrupt, and if possible, the best thing here to do is to turn it to an exposure experience where you are not engaging in that ritual, in that compulsion, and then you're going to see what happens. Your uncertainty, your doubt's going to spike up. Of course, it's going to be hard. But what we know from experience is that uncertainty, doubt's not going to stay high forever. It will eventually come down. That urge to do that compulsion will come down in time. And the more you're able to do this, the more you're able to build up that muscle of being able to tolerate the uncertainty, tolerate that anxiety, and then learn using your senses what actually happens in life, and being able to deal with the uncertainty of things haven't gone perfectly, and you know what, I'm going to be okay with that.
I love that. If you really think about it, we're either feeling anxious and uncertain about past experiences or future experiences, which is like, we're living life here right now in this moment. Why are we living in the future or the past or the what ifs? This is where life is. And so keeping it uncertain means that I get to live life here and now. And this is important.
It's such a beautiful way to think about it, that this stuff can pull us into the past. It can push us into the future, but all of that takes us away from the present. That is so much of every mental health problem. Is it robs us of being present with ourselves, with our environment, with other people. It takes us away from that connection. So thinking about what's really important to you, what do you want to be really connected with? Is it with all these compulsions? Is it with the OCD? Probably not. It's probably with the people and the things that really matter to you. So I love that way of thinking about it.
Any other thoughts before we end?
You know, we're all on these journeys that are completely our own. And if you're someone who's really struggling with compulsions right now, there's hope. There's always an opportunity to take one step forward and to feel more like you are driving your life, you're directing it, you're piloting this ship. There's always an opportunity to take a step forward. And also to remember that if there's times in your life where you've done better with this stuff and now it's become more difficult, that's okay too.
I love that. I mean, the key word that's coming to my mind is give yourself grace.
Yeah.
For life, living life, and going through the ups and downs.
One of my favorite things that you said on the episode that we collaborated with on my channel, where we did say this, don't say that, and we talked about things that you should say to people who have OCD and things you should not say to people who have OCD.
Yeah.
It was one of my favorite Nathanisms.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you coming on here and doing this. It's an honor to be able to talk with you again. Definitely go to this guy's channel. Like, so much good information, accurate. It's amazing. It's hard sometimes to get good, quick, accurate information from a YouTuber and an actual professional as well.
And it's sometimes hard to create that too.
Yeah.
As you noted.
Definitely. So, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right.